Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Hello, Brewer fans. Welcome to the Brew Crew. God damn it.
I'm not editing this.
You got to leave that in. Brewer fans.
4, 3.
That was a recap of the week. Welcome to another Brew Crew Review Podcast. Joining me is Scott and Vince tonight. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Craig. I'm doing great.
It could be better. Not gonna lie, but yeah, not bad.
Craig, is Chad
right.
set here tonight?
He was preoccupied once again. Did get the invite though, but could not make it. All right. Well, the Brewers finished the week homestand against the 3-game set against the Cardinals. They took 2 of 3, and against the Dodgers, unfortunately, they took 1 of 4 games at home against the Dodgers. So 3 and 4 on the week. I think we all had predicted better than that. I think we predicted either 4 or 5 wins, and that did not happen. Only 3. And even though the Brewers got off to a magnificent start to the season, things are starting to become problematic in ways. And we are currently, as of this taping, in 3rd place and heading in the wrong direction. Things aren't trending well for us, except for Christian Yelich, who continues to be unbelievable. I think Vince put it, he's putting up video game type numbers. He's already has 13 homers on the season, which leads the majors. And he's just terrorizing the Cardinals, which is always nice to see. But, yeah, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the week before we talk about specific players and some movements with our rotation and all that stuff? What are your overall thoughts? I mean, obviously you're playing some pretty good teams, playoff caliber teams, but hitting a little rough stretch even at home.
Yeah, rough patch for sure. I think that, as we've talked about on the show in the past, it's really a lot of questions surrounding our pitching staff, both the starting rotation and the bullpen. We've been giving up a lot of runs. So hopefully that trend goes down a little bit. Unfortunately, a couple of the games this past week, we were blown by Josh Hader, who's been so reliable over the past year and a half. So that's maybe a bit of an aberration, I would say, but, and due to happen at some point, maybe they just come in bunches for him. But, overall, I think our starting rotation is still really struggling. We saw another poor start from Corbin Burns, who, got sent down after that start. The Brewers are going to have to find some answers. I don't know if the answers are guys that are currently sitting in Milwaukee right now. We're still looking at potential trades. Maybe it's in the free agent market. Maybe guys in our system. Maybe it's going to just take time to develop some of these younger guys still. But rough week. But to the more optimistic side, the Christian Yelich point, he has just been such a joy to watch the last, or the first few weeks of this season. And it's funny. He probably could easily have 15 home runs if it wasn't for 2 great defensive plays, one by Mike Trout, one by Cody Bellinger, that took away home runs. But either way, I mean, 2-time National League Player of the Week already in a season that's gone 3.5 weeks so far. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, obviously, just this last week, if Hader is his usual Hader self, then maybe this is a little bit better week for us. But unfortunately, he kind of proved that he was human this week, which was a little disappointing. But as good as Yelich has been, unfortunately, there are some holes in the lineup right now that, let's not push the panic button yet. We're less than a month into the season. But, just first and foremost, Jesus Aguilar is I don't know what he's doing at the plate, but he's not hitting, that's for sure. I certainly hope he turns it around. Travis Shaw, we haven't really seen anything from him yet, although he was battling that hand injury, so kind of hoping that he's able to rebound. And then Braun, aside from, the occasional clutch home run, has not really hit very much himself either. And what's even more concerning with that one is Braun isn't walking either. And so makes me worried that maybe he's not seeing the ball really well. I mean, obviously, when you get at a certain age, you can very well just fall off a cliff. I don't think Braun is going to do that. Like I said, don't push the panic button. But he's definitely not playing as well as maybe we expect of him.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the biggest problem in the lineup right now as being Aguiar. It's been such minimal production out of a guy that was an all-star last year. You're talking about somebody who has hit in the middle of this lineup and has 5 RBIs on the whole season so far. I think he's still at 0 home runs. You can ask the intern Scott to verify that, but I think he still has yet to go yard and 5 RBIs on the year, and his batting average is in the 100s. I mean, it's just, yeah, I think he is, and Travis Shaw as well. He hasn't hit yet at all this year, so it's problematic to have 2 guys that you really counted on for a lot of offensive production sitting in a long slump at this point.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Eric Thames is going to start getting some more playing time at first base, maybe. I mean, they could even do something, something with shuffling the infield and having Shaw play a little bit of first base as well, or even with Stakas for that matter. I mean, there's a lot of things to do. It's a really, really versatile lineup, but right now, I mean, he's just not hitting and can't really afford to put him there much longer because it's not like he's hitting the ball hard and just getting unlucky or something like that. I mean, he's had a little of that, but he's had some really rough looking at bats. So
looks completely lost at the plate, and it's further complicated this week by, as of this taping, Mike Moustakas being day to day with a hand injury. So you lose his bat for a few games. It's really frustrating. Eric Thames, again, as of this taping, got the start at first base against the Cardinals in game 1 of that series on the road in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Shaw is also a little bit concerning. I mean, obviously he put in 2 good years with the Brewers already, but a lot of people are saying he was a platoon bat. It's somewhat of a career minor leaguer with the Red Sox, and he's showing a little bit of his valuability. He's been to the Brewers last season. He's showing definitely a slump to start the season. And then Jesus Aguilar, as you guys said, I mean, he was also a career minor leaguer with the Indians for quite a while and never really got a chance. But, I mean, if you look at last year, I mean, he was just on an incredible hot streak in the first half. I think he went from barely making the roster on opening day, like literally almost being cut, to having, I think about 90 RBIs at the All-Star break last year, which is just ridiculous. But he did cool off in the second half a little bit last year. And so there are definitely some concerns. And I think that's why we probably, if we had the options to trade Thames, we probably kept him around as insurance. But as you guys pointed out, there's, we could also use Shaw or Stakas at first and bring someone up, maybe bring up Hero for second or something at some point. But I don't know. I don't think it's quite time to hit the panic button yet. It's only like the 3rd week into April, but I mean, we'll see. I almost think the Brewers promotional team could maybe sneak in. I know that there's already a Jesus Aguilar or bobblehead day that didn't help get his back going, but maybe they could make like a Jesus candle night or something like that. I know those are pretty popular. And that way maybe he could get some divine intervention and get that back going, but I don't know. Definitely, our offense is being carried by Yelich, and Kane, of course, is still doing a phenomenal job, and Yasmani Grandal has been great so far this season. But I think a huge key to our lineup is probably Ryan Braun, like you're saying, hitting right behind Yelich. I mean, they're going to start to pitch around Yelich. I think a real key to our offense for the rest of the season is definitely going to be how well Ryan Braun bats, because he's going to have guys on base in front of him with those 2 awesome caliber players on in front of him. Of course, Yelich has been clearing the bases quite a bit in front of Braun, but still, first game of the St. Louis series, Braun's definitely showing his age. He had a pretty routine-ish fly ball they let drop that started a huge rally and basically put the game away. First game in St. Louis. So I don't know. Braun's definitely someone we're going to need to come through for us like he always has, but we shall see.
Yeah, he had a home run in that game too. I think Braun's best role, and again we've discussed it on this podcast. I really think that his best role this season would be off the bench if we had that sort of flexibility. A guy who could play outfield and first base and platoon and save his legs a little bit. And I don't know that we've got the roster depth to do that. Another bat that you could add in to replace Braun. But you could still have him playing most days with that setup at maybe a few different positions, as he's shown the ability to do over the years. But I worry less about Braun just because of the track record than I do about Shaw and Aguilar. Just as you pointed out, Craig, they're guys that were career minor leaguers until breakout season in 2017 for Shaw and 2018 for Aguilar. So we have to really know what we've got with those guys, and we're not just playing them; we're playing them in the heart of the lineup. So to me, that's the key right now for the Brewers offense.
Well, I guess I should say something positive briefly. We are the best fielding team in the National League. So actually, and I think all the majors. So, the experiment of the Sackers moving to second base hasn't really hurt us yet. So that's kind of a good thing. It's positive.
Yeah, I think the Brewers' defensive shifting has been nothing short of brilliant for the last couple of seasons and into this one. So I think that really allows for guys to play out of position almost.
And kudos to the offensive numbers put up so far by Yasmani Grandal, like you mentioned, Craig. He has exceeded expectations with the bat so far. He's shown power. He's hit for average. The guy's a presence in the lineup. So Grandal is certainly doing his part to carry the offense. And the other guy who's always been a wild card is Orlando Arcia. I think that, defensively, he's one of the best shortstops in baseball. Offensively, he's been kind of a black hole for the last year and a half. And, it would be really nice if he could just hit a little bit better than he has. I don't know that we can expect it, which is, again, why it's so important for, Braun and Aguilar and Shaw to kind of rise up to what they were able to do last year, just to make up for his lack of offensive production out of the 8th spot lineup.
Is it possible that maybe Arcia, after having a little bit of early success, it seemed like he was really hitting the ball to right field a lot more and hitting some solid contact? Obviously, he's already hit as many home runs as he did all last year, which is great. But it also seems like maybe now he's swinging from the heels a little bit more, and that strategy might not work for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a professional hitting coach, but it does seem like he is a guy that particularly that gets in bad habits, and it takes a long time for him to break out of those bad habits. So, right now he's swinging from his heels. Last year he was out on his front foot too much. He still is a young guy, a really young guy. So there's always the chance that he can, turn it around a little bit. Guys like Alcides Escobar and Gene Segura did, at different points in their careers. But again, I'm not as worried about Arcia's bat, only because he really isn't expected to be a huge bat in the lineup. I think, again, if he plays the Gold Glove caliber defense that he's capable of playing, and everybody else is breaching their offensive potential, you'll be fine. But, it'd be nice to see him hit like 250 at least, with a little pop, and not so prone to the strikeout as he's shown that he has been last year and this year.
Yeah, I think Arcia has the talent, and he has all throughout his minor league career to hit over 250, and I think he'll eventually figure it out at the major league level. But yeah, last year was really not a good year for him, but I feel like he's making some strides this year, and hopefully he'll continue that, as his defense is very valuable to the team at his position, in particular, shortstop. So kind of want to turn it over now to talk about the rotation, I guess. Pretty much, catch Brewer fans up if you already know, and obviously Freddie Peralta was placed on the IL, the injured list, after I think he did 3 starts. One of them was brilliant, the other 2 were very rocky. And then
can we call it the DL still, Craig?
I don't care.
Can we just call it the disabled list?
I was gonna say, I'm probably I'm so ingrained to saying DL that I'm gonna say DL for at least the next 10 years, no matter what they call it. But
yeah, I'm not very hip or trendy at all. I feel like the disabled list is appropriate. You're not able to play, you're on the disabled list. It's just what it's always been. I don't feel
could we call it a differently
it.
abled list and still call it DL? I think that would be much better.
Scott, you can call it whatever you want. That's kind of your role on the show. But Yeah, I mean, I just don't necessarily – I don't know if I'm going to remember to call it the IL or anything, just for the record.
You guys might be putting me in a shame spiral. I may have to go to a safe space.
You do that, Scott. Besides Peralta, obviously, Corbin Burns was really showed some great strikeout potential in his starts, but he was giving it way too many home runs in particular. And I thought the Brewers kind of pulled the plug on him a little soon. Well, they sent him to the minor leagues to kind of work on. I'm sure he'll be back up and he'll have a rotation spot at that point. I don't think they're switching him to the bullpen or anything crazy like that. I think that he's a starter long term. I just thought he needed a couple. They kind of gave him a quick hook after giving him such confidence when out spring training. But with that being said, I mean, for a contending team, we really can't have him, go through growing pains like that at the major league level. I think this really harkens back to the Brewers' plan of coming in the season, giving Woodruff, Peralta, and Burns rotation spots, knowing that there were going to be some growing pains. But I think that they felt that they were ready, and that was the best for their future, and it probably still is. But with that being said, with Burns being sent down, Chase Anderson got started back in the rotation, and their fifth starter spot's kind of up in the air. But I know that the Brewers did recall Adrian Hauser to make a start, but I feel it might only be like a spot start, as I don't think he's a long-term rotation piece personally, but more of just like a fill-in depth long man type guy. But anyway, you never know. But I don't really – what are you guys' thoughts on what the Brewers' even short-term plans are going to be for that fifth spot in the rotation? With those two open spots, Chase Anderson obviously filling one, and then at least one more. You think it's going to be Hauser until Burns is ready, or potentially there's been some rumors the Brewers, obviously Keuchel's still out there. I don't see that happening. But interesting news as of basically this taping is that Gio Gonzalez just today was let go by the Yankees, who had an opportunity to add him to their major league roster, but they decided not to, so he's a free agent. And obviously he has a history with the Brewers of last year's playoff run, and definitely could use a veteran arm, I feel, at least.
No, I agree, Craig. I think that Gio would be a benefit to the rotation right now. I was never in favor of putting all three of those guys in the rotation at the same time, the three younger guys, Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta. I felt like we should have had at least one of those guys remain in the bullpen just because they were all pretty valuable out of the bullpen at times last year. So I was hoping that we would get at least two or three. I personally felt like Woodruff would be a great bullpen arm, but maybe Burns was that guy. I also think that it's very early. You don't change your entire organizational plan for the next, 5-6 years with these guys just because of a bad month either. So I'm sure that we haven't seen the last of Corbin Burns in the starting rotation in Milwaukee. I think that he just, been sent down to work on a couple things, and he'll be back. And he wasn't prone to giving up, the long ball very much in the minor league. So I tend to think it's kind of a weird aberration. And that being said, maybe he's tipping his pitches. You never know. There's something that, hopefully coaches are working with him to identify while he's in AAA. That being said, if we're not going to sign Gio, internally, I guess that Hauser is a possibility. You can look at him. He's got a little bit of a track record. The Brewers did convert him to being a starter to start the year in AAA this season. So maybe that was a Brewers plan all along, was to have him, ready to make these make starts in situations like this. So I'm going to guess that it's going to be Hauser in the short term at least.
I kind of hope it winds up being Gio Gonzalez, but I actually don't know. I mean, I like to think that his price tag is pretty cheap, but there are definitely plenty of teams out there that could use another lefty in their rotation. So I guess you never know. And, I mean, there's teams like, the Mets, obviously, when DeGrom comes down, they could be looking at him. It'd be a pretty short commute for him. But, I don't know. I guess – since I'm struggling with the answer is that there is no good option for the fifth starter at this point on this team. And that's definitely scary, I guess. We may as well throw out there that Zach Brown is not ready. He probably won't be for a while, in my opinion. But, I don't see a good answer.
Well, and I think that the Brewers were kind of hoping to make do for a bit with some of these younger guys until Jimmy Nelson returns from his injury. So, with these pitching injuries, I just think that it's such a wild card to bank on a specific timetable. I mean, Jimmy Nelson was rumored to be back last May, if you guys remember. The Brewers were first talking about his timetable. And obviously that didn't work out, and he still isn't back yet this year. So maybe it's, May of 2019 that he comes back, or maybe it's June or further. So it'll be interesting to see, what Jimmy's progression has been like in extended spring training. I think that'll play a big role in what David Stearns is looking to do now with Gio. That the thing with Gio, not to dampen any enthusiasm with this, but Gio sat on the open market until March. I mean, he didn't sign until very late in the free agency or in the offseason when he signed with the Yankees. So I tend to think that if we were going to sign him, we probably would have already done it in the offseason when he was available. So I really don't know if he would have opted out of his contract with the Yankees if he expected to be paid less. The Yankees have had lots of injuries. I still think that he could have made that team at some point in the near future, but I just don't think he would have opted out if he was going to make less money. But I guess time will tell.
Actually,
I think a lot of.
I just wanted to quick tell Vince, I'm really sorry that it looks like Jimmy Nelson might, if we're really, really, really lucky, he might actually be pitching for the San Antonio Missions when you're out there. So, well,
I will be there. That's a good segue, Scott. Because we'll get back to Krager's point, but I will be attending the San Antonio Missions Brewers AAA team's game on Wednesday evening of this week. So we're taping this on a Monday night. So I will be down in San Antonio for that, and we'll make sure to provide a lot of content to our subscribers on Twitter and be ready to go for that for our next podcast.
Awesome.
Craig, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Nelson and the future of the rotation here?
Well, I think the Brewers going into this year, we're not sure. I mean, I think they expected Nelson to be back at some point this year, and in their hope of hopes, I guess, that he'd be back to his old self by somehow at least the stretch run of like September and into the playoffs, and then have a somewhat fresh arm because of it. I think that's what their plan might have been. And in the meantime, hey, we're going to go with the young guys. But Chase Anderson is kind of a backup option in a long relief role. And if anything, one of the young guys doesn't go well, we'll just slot Chase back in, send the young guy down to AAA, and then this plan should work. Well, I mean, we've got Peralta on the DL and Burns sent down. And so we've got an opening, and that's why I think Gio doesn't make some sense. I get what you're saying that perhaps the Brewers would have already signed him, but I think that they're the best laid plans here are not necessarily coming to fruition. And I don't know when Peralta will be back, but I mean Gio, I just think that adding a veteran like him with the amount of innings that he's shown he could pitch. Decent quality innings, it would be valuable to this team right now. He could be had without giving anything up. I mean, usually, as you saw, we had to actually give up a decent amount, of minor league players to get Gio last August, and so why not just acquire him now for probably not too much money, and have him, even if it's just a depth piece, or if he eventually even gets put in the bullpen or something. I don't know. We'll see. I think there's going to be some competition. Obviously, other people have a lot of injury problems with rotations and people getting hurt all the time now. And it wouldn't surprise me if you got offers from 4 or 5 teams all of a sudden now, even though people really only kick the tires on him this offseason. I think that he'll definitely land something real soon because of the need, I guess, that has arose. And we'll see. And I think the teams would probably rather sign Gio and not give up a draft pick and hardly any money, a short 1-year deal, than, pony up for Keuchel at this point. But that's just me. And I don't know if we still have time, but real quick about the Brewers bullpen. Jeremy Jeffers did come back this week finally and pitch at the major league level. It does not seem to me that Council's throwing him in there in 9th inning roles yet. He's kind of easing him back in, which I think is probably smart until he sees that he's ready. But I still feel that the plan will be for Jeffers, possibly, assuming we don't sign Kimbrel or something, would be in that 9th inning role at some point this season, with Hader still being kind of like the floater or whatever.
And with Knable's injury, that makes some sense. Definitely. And let's hope that Jeremy's arm is feeling, or his shoulder is feeling better. I know that, he did struggle a little bit in his minor league rehab outings, but let's hope that he can step up to the occasion. He's a guy who's set on record that he really steps up for big games, or the adrenaline rush is what really motivates him. So let's hope that that's the case. And now that he's pitching in big league ball games and has some adrenaline flowing, that we're going to see the old Jeremy Jeffers back. That'd be a huge boost in the arm right now for this bullpen.
I mean, because if you take Hader away, who's also shown to be less than superhuman this particular week, he's given up a couple of big home runs against the Dodgers, which cost us dearly. But I mean, if you take him out altogether, the Brewers bullpen overall is looking pretty mediocre on paper, if you ask me, and that worries me because I feel that should really be one of the strengths of our team. And obviously, we don't hope to take Josh Hader out of the equation, so we do at least have him. But outside of that, there's not too many people in the bullpen that I feel super confident when we bring them in. Unfortunately, like I have in the past couple of years. So I don't know. I think there'll be some ups and downs of this team, and but like Scott said, looking at that brutal first 26 games against such quality teams, he thought he'd be happy. We go 13-13. Well, we already have 13 wins, but we're not going to have too many more than that. It's good. Yeah. So after this stretch, I think the Brewers can get back on track. I think it'll really take Jesus and Shaw to get going, and especially, Yelich cannot possibly keep up this pace, so he's going to call it a slump if he just goes back to being regular all-star level rather than ungodly superhero MVP level at some point. But other guys really got to step up, Braun also, and everyone. So I think it'll happen. And same thing with the rotation. I think we'll get it worked out, but I really feel like an addition, whether it be Kimbrel or Gio Gonzalez, to this team sometime in the next couple of weeks would be a real nice shot in the arm, but we shall see.
Craig, for what it's worth, our anonymous source, Tom Carter, he says that the Brewers are going to sign Gio Gonzalez this week.
Whoa.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, he's confident, so.
We should put that on Twitter.
I know that came directly from Tom Carter, our anonymous source. Wow. So, just for the record.
It's incredible.
Oh, okay.
Is he going to be signed by the time we even publish this?
Well, you're going to have to ask Tom. I mean, you can give him a call. 414-902-4000 is our anonymous source, Tom's phone number. So you can just call him there.
Perfect. And not only that, but while you're on hold, you can listen to some great calls by Bob Uecker, great plays in the history. I'm sure there are probably long hold times right now, and listen to those upcoming Brewers promotions.
That's true. That's true. And ask specifically for our anonymous source, Tom Carter. He'll answer. All right, we're right on too much time left.
Tell him your name is Todd Lincoln. I think that would be good.
Tom Lincoln. That's Lincoln. Tom Lincoln. That's good. Kind of an inside joke there, folks. I don't know what the timer's telling us, but I do want to quick thank all of our followers on Twitter. We are now over 600. We reached that plateau a few days ago, so thank you very much to everyone who's followed us recently and who's continued to support us since we started our podcast back in March of 2018. It's been going over a year now. You can give us a follow at Brew Crew Review 1 on Twitter and continue to send in your email questions. We've got a lot of them to catch up on, I'm sure, but Brew Crew Review Podcast with an s@gmail.com is our show's email address, and we'll try to get to your questions on our next episode.
Oh, we got a Facebook page too now, I guess, like another one or something. I think it's like our third one. But
well, what is it, Scott? Why don't you tell our fans? What is it?
I don't know. There? I have no idea what it is. Just look up Brew Crew Review and hope, I guess. It'll be the one with the most current logo on it, and it'll be the only one with like any posts from the last 5 years. So, yeah.
Well, maybe our interns can merge them all together. Our interns can work on that here in the next week. But, yeah, check us out on Facebook as well.
Our interns
Scott, can you please fire whatever intern start a new Facebook page? Thank you.
Last time I was looking at our interns, they were taking rubber bands and shooting flies on the ceiling. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Sometimes that's a necessary duty, the Brew Crew Review Studios, but we'll try to get that situation resolved here this week.
All right, before we wrap up, guys, real quick, this week. I think 6 games, 3 against the Cardinals in St. Louis, 3 against the Mets in New York. What do you feel we're going to do for the week?
I'll say 3-3.
That?
I'm going to say 2-4. I actually think that this is going to be a rough week for us, but I think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. After this, the schedule gets a little bit more favorable.
All right. I'm going to be optimistic and say 3-3. Yeah, it's tough.
That's kind of new. That's kind of
New York, though.
That's kind of neutral, Craig. That's not really optimistic because you're not saying we're going to win more games than we're going to lose.
Well, there's only one team with
I was going to say 1
pitching
of 5 actually, so I felt that was being optimistic.
Oh,
so you're being more optimistic than a pessimist, but that's not. I mean, still not optimistic.
But not being unrealistic.
No, I didn't say that. I just said you're being more optimistic than a pessimist. That's all.
I mean, I want us to go 6-0, but I have a feeling that it's possible.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, right,
you win some, you lose some.
Right now,
I'll
anyway,
go 3-3.
All right, that's good. Right now, anyway, there's only one team that's pitching worse than the Milwaukee Brewers in the National League, and it happens to be the New York Mets. So that should be a pretty wild series.
Yep. Should be fun, and maybe the Brewers or the Mets will sign one of the remaining free agents before the series starts. So it should be interesting. Maybe it'll be Keuchel against Gio in Game 3 of the series or something.
Oh, that'd be phenomenal. I'll take either one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I didn't say who was going where.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap, guys.
All right, guys. Well, I guess in the meantime, go Brewers and stay classy, Wisconsin.
Stay classy.
Go Brewers.
Do.